all for coming. Not to take the shirt off, but I wanted to show you this lovely jacket that they gave us. They gave us also an incredible bright yellow. It's not real good for birding. So it ways it warm. Everybody on board ship, you'll see some of them. Thing. Anyway, this they have a slight adjustment in the title. You will not see anything about the Falklands. Everybody on the trip had to be boosted, and all of the staff and all of the participants had to have all their shots and boosted. And I was the finally first at something, first one to get COVID on the trip. And we were 2 days out of the Falklands, so I got put in a little room by myself and got out as we were leaving the Falklands. So I didn't see the Falklands at all. So get that part of it. But I did go down 2 days early. I always now go on my trips a couple of days early because I no longer trust airplanes to get me where I need to go at the time I need to go. So I arranged for a guide and spent 2 days before the trip started and 1 day after the trip because I was afraid I would miss my connections if there were any problems. So I stayed over another night. So I birded 3 days around Hashagen and had some good birds. So the first part of the talk will be the pre-trip birding. And I looked this owl up again. It's not Buffy. I think it's a Rufus something. Rufus thide. Okay, good. Yes, I keep wanting to call it a Buffy thide, but it's a Rufus thide. And we went out and prowled around in the middle of the night and got some good looks at this owl. And then I'll just go through a bunch of slides here. I think the names are on all of them, and most of them are spelled correctly, I think. That was a really pretty bird. If anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to comment. And there were a couple of kinds of caracaras down there. This is the chimango caracara. And how many of you have been to the Arctic? Scotty and Lynn are going, and Karen is going to go in 5.
Yeah.
When are you going? Oh, okay. Yeah, they do look like goldfinches. And these were all in Tierra del Fuego National Park. We went up to a big glacier that has been receding and used to be a ski area, but no longer gets enough snow for skiing. And then right at downtown Ushuaia is a big bay. Yeah. So that was a pretty good birding spot for different gulls and dandelions. Huge dandelions all over the place. National flower or something. The great grebe, that was their river going to the sea up in the park. The park is very close to town. Excuse me.
What dates were you there?
November 5th through the 29th. And they got home on the 29th. So that is about the time frame you're going. Patty and Lynn just got back mid-February. So they were a couple, and they saw a lot more baby birds than I did. So this was one of the birds that we found up on the Martha Glacier, the dark-faced ground pirate. And this was down at the waterfront, the crested duck. The feathers on the side, I was kind of critical of my photo saying that the feathers on the side aren't in focus, but they really are. That's how they look. And the rest of it's pretty crisp. Gray-hooded Sierra finch, they were all over the place. And everybody. It's a really nice picture of a house finch. And then kelp gulls, they were a bunch of those down at the waterfront. And they're a really striking bird. And they have the woodpecker down there. This is the female Magellanic. And I'm really big on owls and I'm really big on woodpeckers. Really want to see this one. And the first day in the park, we tried 2 or 3 spots and didn't find it and went to the third or fourth spot and ran into some other rock jumper. The tour, incidentally, was with Rock Jumper Tours. Highly recommend it. It was very professional, very well run trip. The boat had 189 participants. It was a small boat. The Ocean Diamond was 400 feet long and had 189 participants, and they had something like 160 staff to take care of the 189. The food was, of course, wonderful. But anyway, back to the Magellanic woodpecker. Finally found somebody from the boat that was leading pre-tours, and he said, "How are you guys doing? What are you looking for?" And we told him, "What are the Magellanic woodpecker?" And he said, "Fine, just go down there, a quarter mile, right at the end of the road, and over there, 100 yards in, and didn't find him." He said, "We're going to spend 2 hours." So they're really a gorgeous, gorgeous bird. And then the Magellanic snipe was wandering around in a really nasty water type down by the waterfront. Posed for pictures nicely. And this was another, the ornate ground timer was another one that we found way up in the mountains on Marshall Glacier. And down the waterfront again. Rufous collared sparrows, almost more abundant than the house sparrow, like all over the place. So the lapwing, horn-tailed redito. That was he's right in front of the nest cavity, and very quick little bird, kind of a creeper type. Geese, they were all over the place in the park before we left on the trip, and rarely did you find them more than 10 feet apart from each other. They were very close to each other, and they were getting ready to breed. And just really a beautiful little goose, and he tiny little bit. And this is Wuthaya. I don't know when you were there, Howard. You said it's a couple you've been to. Well, this is. I asked the population, and they indicated that the population was probably about 90,000 now. Yes, they had a lot of construction that looked like it had been started several years ago and had not been finished. A lot of empty buildings, and it wasn't a case of, well, it's winter, we weren't able to work on it. Now it's summer, we can get back to it. Temperature range, the hottest, the lowest we got on the trip was 28 degrees in November. It was really lovely. I took way too much foul weather, warm weather gear. What about Patty and Lynn? How cold did you guys get?
Yeah.
10? You got down to 10? Okay. Went through the terrible shot, but it was at the dump, and they wouldn't let you in to get close to them. Oops, I never did get that eye out of pintail. Okay. As I said, we steamed out of Playa and headed for the Falklands. I got put in a cabin and for 5 days, and they would knock on the door and slip me a menu on the door, and I circle what I wanted and stick it back on the door, and knock on the door, and somebody would come and take it. Somebody knock on the door and go out. Somebody running like hell to get down. She'd get away from me. There's yeah. And spent 5 days doing that. It was fine. The food on the trip was incredible. Breakfast was more than you could want. Omelet stations, if you want for omelet, they make it for you. All sorts of meats and cheeses and rolls and wheat rolls and stuff like that. And the meals were just, they gave you a different menu every night. And it was just incredible. Everything, you had a choice of 3 different appetizers, 2 or 3 soups, 3 entrees, 1 meat, 1 fish, 1 vegan, 1 something else that no one eat. And then 3 or 4 different desserts, as much beer and wine as you wanted. Just raise your hand. So a very well-run trip. This is the boat we were on, the Ocean Diamond. As I said, they had a capacity of 350 people. It's a small boat. It was only about 407 feet long. And you can see on the back there, that's where the racks, that's where the boats to go ashore in, and they would take them up. I think I got a picture later showing loading and unloading the things. Okay, penguins, one of the reasons you go down there. I missed a couple of species of penguins in the bottles that they didn't have on the rest of the trip. I saw 5 of the 6 of the 8 species. One night I just took a warm shower and I was in bed. It was really nice in the beds because the boat's rocking a little bit. You know, when they're steaming, they got big stabilizers. So I just thought, this is nice. And then there's an announcement. 2 emperor penguins have been sighted off the side of the ship. And I know if I got up and got dressed and got out there, they'd be 2 miles back. So because they said, you know, if you see one, you're going to be very lucky. They do more on the bottom, or if you look at our maps on the bottom, you had to read down there. So I'm thinking, well, damn it, I missed that. And we have stopped the boat so you can all look at the emperor penguin. We got up, dressed, ran out to the deck. Way in the distance, I couldn't even get a photograph of them, but they got the binoculars on us. One. So the Adelie penguins were all over the place. Here's one on a nest. The pebbles, they're great on picking up pebbles to make a nest, and that gets stuff off the frozen ground that they can not get water in the nest and stuff like that. Here's a whole bunch of them on nests, and just incredible population. So all over the place. And sometimes they go way up on the sides of the hills, you know, several hundred yards away from the water, and they trudge back and forth. And this is kind of fun. The Adelie picking peglets for the nest. This would be the male, and he's constantly going and looking for more pebbles to put on mom's nest. And or if the nest is not occupied, he'd go pick up a pebble and turn around, and somebody else would come and steal one from his nest and go back. They were constantly looking for the right size pebble to put on the nest.
What close did you get to?
They asked that we not get within 15 feet of any of the wildlife. The penguins did not get that memo. They would come right up and look at you. This is an abandoned boat from one of the previous trips, I guess. I don't. It was. You can see a couple of fur seals in there. Fur seals every time we get any place close to shore. We had 6 landings on South Georgia, which apparently is very unusual because usually wind or weather or something precludes landings. And we had 6 landings, and then sometimes half the group would go and get on shore, and the other would cruise back and forth and look at birds and seals and whales out in the ocean, and then had really good leaders. The expedition team at River Jumper is excellent. They would go out early in the morning and see that it was safe to land. And then when you came in a little inflatable boat, there would be 4 people in dry suits. To hear it would help go off the boat and turn the boat around, shove it off, and they were very well organized in the beach. They had stakes where they wanted you to stay close to the stakes so you didn't get involved with the wildlife. And we went to several whaling stations that are now no longer. We'll see the fur seals in the foreground. And these are, I think, nobody explained these to me, but they had big boilers that they would put the whale stuff in and boil them down, and they used seal blubber and partially dead penguins to fuel the things. Well, the whale population took quite a dive as for seals. I mean, big structures. Okay, we actually got a picture of a bird here. I am not skilled at taking pictures of flying birds. So I took a whole bunch of pictures, and every once in a while, even a blind pig finds an acorn, and it's something that was savable. But these would follow the boat, and anytime you wanted to, you can go out on deck, any of the several decks, and there was usually expedition staff out there to point things out or tell you what you're looking at. A lot of opportunity. The albatrosses stayed fairly close to the boat and would come in just skimming the surface. And the other little birds, like the blue petrel, and you can tell that blue petrel from the ferry is the white on the keel. And they're usually 150 yards off, trying to boats going up and down, and you're going up and down, the birds going between the waves. Very difficult to get a decent shot of those. Cape petrel was a little bigger and beautifully patterned birds, and they would come in good numbers and fly by the boat. Didn't see many of these, just a couple. Northern giant petrel, the tip of the bill on the northern giant petrel is kind of a rusty red, and that's how you tell it from southern giant petrel. The snow petrels were little birds way off in the distance usually, and teeny tiny, zipping back and forth. And at one time we just had a whole crush of them that came up and mobbed the boat. So southern fulmar, and see, this is the southern giant petrel, and see the bill on a tube on the nose for excreting the salt that they pick up, but he's kind of a pale olive green, and as opposed to and these flew very close to the boat, and I cropped the pictures a bit as well. It looks like he's going to land on top of me. Gray-headed albatross, elephant seals, big guys, up to 4,000 pounds, some of them 15 feet long. And they said, don't go near them, but periodically sit and look at you and go, whom. You come towards you, but they could only do like 4 or 5 of these, and then you go and rest. For some reason, they love to rest, and these little ones in the front are struggling like mad to get out, and they're not giving away at all. They're just, I even started to put my head on your hand. The snowy sheathbill is a bird, for some reason, I really wanted to see down there, and I didn't know whether it was going to be difficult or not. And I had one of the cheapest cabins available, and it was with an obstructed view, so I had a lifeboat right outside my window. One day I went out and I had 8 snowy sheathbills standing on top of the life thing. And the fur seal is kind of, I don't know how he got injured, but you can see his Antarctic terns, a couple of spots we ran into those. The brown skuas were all over the place, in amongst all the penguins, looking for penguin babies, penguin eggs. Humpback whales. We had one trip where we were cruising around and found a cod of about 5 whales, excuse me. But that's, I think, the only, you guys saw more, you saw a bunch of different whale species. Early in the trip, I think you don't get as many species, and the baby penguins are not very evident. But we only saw the one humpback whales. And then icebergs, one of the reasons you go to Antarctica. Beautiful, beautiful colors, sizes, shapes. They had one, what was it, 76A that was 70 miles long or something. 70 miles. It looked like just a big piece of ice out there, but it was actually floating free and broken off. And we steamed by that for most of one day at 11 knots. And here are the Zodiacs. These are the guides that are kind of hovering around waiting to be called into the boat to pick up the group of people. They were very good in the boat and when seated and telling you when you could stand up, when you could not. Some of them, the guides had been down there many years and they had, could tell you things. Oh, that glacier was much bigger last year when I was down here. And very personable and knowledgeable folks and very skilled at running their little boats. Some more icebergs, beautiful things, colors. We had just about the weather when I was down there was just, I don't remember we had any rain at all. And no snow. They only get a couple inches of snow a year, but they've had it every year for so many years that it kind of stacks up down there. The Weddell seal, we didn't see any leopard seals. One boat, the little boat did. They're not very fun to take pictures of because that's about as active as they get. Sometimes they turn their head, so you get a different shot, but they're not really exciting to take pictures of. The fur seals were all over the place and were often rather belligerent to their beach mates. And the elephant seals were really nasty. Had glaciers, some of them came all the way down, some of them had been receding, according to the expedition staff. Just beautiful. The weather was great. The seas were calm. Some whale vertebrae at one of the beaches. Those were nothing around. Okay, we got the Gentoo penguin. The pink under the Gentoo colony there is all penguin poop. And they do not nest on ice. They nest only on ground, rocks or the dirt. So the pink penguin poop tends to hasten the like covering snow with a black tarp or something. It tends to melt the snow. So it gives the birds as soon as they can get on the thing they want to get on nests and that sort of stuff. I took pictures of all the heads just because I thought they were so different colored eyes, different beaks. And then the imperial shags were nesting down there and they nest right amongst the penguins. And they are basically what we call cormorants up here. A beautiful blue eye and a little bright yellow under beak. And then king penguins. They were the next in size down from the emperor, and there were lots of them. King penguin had a black eye. And the jackets that they gave us were about the color of the back of the head. So not real good for birding around here, but very nice in winter here. King penguin, chick molding. It looks so sad. Yes. I like that one. It's amazing. I don't know how many of you have watched some of the programs on penguin or OPB or whatever, but you have these thousands and thousands. I think I've got a picture in here of the king penguin colonies. And I mean, they just go on forever. And this one spot that they estimated 100,000 acres. And in the middle, you've got all these babies that are fresh up that they get together. And mom and dad are out in the ocean getting food. And they come back and you think, how the heck can anybody get their kid out of there into that? And apparently the calls are distinct enough So mom or dad can start calling, and work his way out of the pack and comes up to him. And it's just amazing when you think how many. Oh. Yeah. And this, you can see, this is what I'm talking about. There's a couple of big elephant seals in there. But as far as you can see, there are penguins in the picture. And pods of hundreds of these babies all crushed together. And you just sit there and shake your head. How can mom and dad ever figure out which ones belong to them, or maybe they don't care? They look like they just are without arms. At some point, they're going to get arms under all that. So, okay, here's another chin strap penguin. That's this one standing up, and you can see the brood patch and the egg. Most of the time, you say, "Oh, I want to get a picture of the brood patch or the egg," and the bird just sitting in the nest. Focus on one. Maybe he's going to stand up. Maybe this one does over here. He sets out again. So I felt very fortunate to finally get this picture of getting the chin strap. The chin strap colony also had a Magellanic penguin, who for some reason felt that he needed to belong with the chin straps, not the Magellanics that nested miles away. And they finally named him because he comes back every year. His name's Kevin. And I think so, yeah, I believe so. I like the whole fin strap really clear. And here's the snowy sheathbill again. They were into everything. They just got on shore, walked amongst the penguins, walked amongst the seals. Oh, penguin highways. This was kind of fun. So they said the expedition team would help you out of the boat when you got on land. And then they would put posts and say, please stay close to the posts and go out. And if you cross a penguin highway, there was always an expedition staff member there saying, "Oh, wait a minute, we got one coming." And they had the right of way, and they would waddle through. They said, "Look, you go down, you step across the penguin highway." And they all just kind of trudge there. And this is the macaroni. He's beautiful. That wasn't Kevin. I didn't get it right. Tussock grass. This is not a very interesting picture, but the tussock grass, I threw this picture in because that's breeding habitat or nesting habitat for albatrosses and other more land-oriented species, not the penguins at all, but and it's just high, big bunches of it, and they get down in it or under it. And this is a Zodiac landing. They put 10 individuals in, and the guy would stand up and stand up and bring you to shore. Sometimes they had to do a little dodging and back and forth to get to the landing site because of wind and weather would move the ice around. And here's how they launched all the Zodiacs and retrieved them. And then they would store them on those big racks in the back of the boat. And that's it. I will be back. Any questions, Leonard, Patty, if you have anything you want to add? How your trip differed from, you saw much, we had basically the two species that had young that were molting and stuff. You had lot of little ones, did you?
Yeah, so we had the young that were just getting rid of all of their venom and really coming into the juvenile plumage stage. So most of the ones we saw were much farther along than we saw. But the most exciting thing maybe that we saw was the Delhi penguins. And we were one of the islands in the Antarctica Peninsula. And we were just kind of cruising by, looking at everything. The beach was full of Fidelis. And all of a sudden, we noticed that a whole bunch of them, not a bunch, are walking in the same direction. And we kind of go around the corner of the island, looking at things, lots of leopard seals around, reading about lots, maybe 2 or 4 around that area. We go around the corner of the island, and all of the things are expressions. So, get down to the central area where was all of a sudden, maybe 500 or more of these penguins come off the shore and out into the water where we are in the Zodiac. And it turns out it was the young that were going out to sea for the first time, and they all the sea bottom. It's almost exactly the same day every year. Okay. I do look, but you know, I can tell you. But, and they're all kind of making these funny little chirpy noises, and they haven't been out to sea. So they're trying to figure out how to swim and run porpoise and, bumping into the zodiacs. And of course, that mass exodus is to try to escape predation. I think from the leopard seals. So if they go out with this whole crowd of hundreds of youngsters. And the penguin biologist was on board with us, so they will come back for 3 years. So we were just there right in the middle of that exodus. It's incredible.
The other thing I wanted to comment, on board ship, if you were in transit between, say, Falklands and South Georgia, I think that was a 3-day trip, if I remember correctly. And it wasn't that you had nothing to do, because you weren't going to get off, nothing really to see other than go up back in the boat, look at albatrosses. But they had really wonderful, well-presented lectures. There's usually 2 or sometimes 3 a day. They had one where they told us about the stabilizers on the boat, and that was a half-hour talk. And then they had one fellow who had taken some of the old Explorer pictures, black and whites of the early explorers heading for Christ, and it made such a difference. All of a sudden, they looked like they, were down there yesterday, and but lovely talks about penguins, and so it was something to do while you were waiting for lunch or waiting for dinner. And every day at 4, they had tea in the lounge. They had, I understand, have an exercise room on the boat. I did not see that, and they had a very nice library with many books of penguins and.
Did you go with rock lover?
Jumper. It's called Jumper.